President Trump meeting today at the White House with British Prime Minister Theresa May. A busy week, the first week in office. Today, signing an executive action, one executive memorandum requiring assessments intended to shape a reconfigured and larger U.S. military. The executive action imposes strict vetting procedures for people trying to enter the United States. Then two executive orders yesterday. Border security and immigration enforcement improvements, starting to build the wall, essentially, the U.S. border with Mexico, and then withholding grant money from so-called sanctuary cities. Then one executive order and four presidential memoranda the day before. Keystone pipeline builder TransCanada to resubmit its application. Also, the Dakota Access Pipeline restarted. Expedite environmental reviews on high priority infrastructure projects. Submit a report on how best to streamline manufacturing and the use of U.S.-made steel for all of these projects. The day before, three presidential memoranda, including pulling out of the TPP trade deal, federal money for international non-governmental organizations that perform or counsel women on abortion services. That's the Mexico City deal, ending that, and then freezing federal hiring, but exempting the U.S. military. And his first official day was to give agencies authority to grant waivers, exemptions, and delays of provisions of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, freeze on regulations on all federal agencies, and suspend the recently announced reduction to annual mortgage insurance premiums. Whew. That was the first week. Let's bring in our panel. Jason Riley, columnist with the Wall Street Journal and Manhattan Institute senior fellow. Leslie Marshall, syndicated talk show host. Matt Schlapp, contributor with The Hill, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. I wanted to put all of that out there in one kind of list because there was a lot happening, Jason.
Big week, big week. Though, Brett, I think President Trump was in fine form today at this press conference. This was not Twitter Trump. This was President Trump. His manner, his look, he was careful with his words, very measured. Even when he got a couple aggressive questions from some foreign media outlets, he didn't escalate as he usually does. He de-escalated. I think he was it looked like a president who was appealing to people outside of his core base. And I think we'll have to see more of this if he wants a successful presidency. But today, I think he got the job done.
Clearly, Leslie, the relationship with Great Britain looks like it's in fine form, but the relationship with Mexico may be a little different. Tweeting this morning on the trade deals, I'm representing the people of the United States, and I'm going to represent them as someone should represent them, not how they've been represented in the past, saying Mexico has taken advantage of the U.S. for long enough. Massive trade deficits and little help on the very weak border must change now. He did talk to the Mexican president for about an hour today on the phone.
Yeah, I live in Southern California, and the state that I live in California, we have a lot of labor that comes in over the border from Mexico and then goes back. We also have the highest number of undocumented workers. And we have a lot of people who work with the Border Patrol Agency who really don't want a wall, as they want more jobs. Now, he's promised both, and some people, myself included, wonder where the money's going to come from that. With regard to Mexico and a 20% tariff, any way you look at it, this is going to hurt the American consumer. This could end up hurting American jobs. So I honestly don't think with Mexico that's a good deal. And like you said, definitely not the relationship that we saw him attempting to have in the future today with Great Britain.
Matt.
I think that he's a negotiator, and he's negotiating with Mexico. Actually, the bottom line is Mexico is desperately in search of a good relationship with America because their economy and their currency is much more precarious than we really focus on. And they've got to strike a good relationship with President Trump. And I don't think President Trump has the intention of destroying this relationship. I just think he wants to reset the economic terms of it. For too long, America has been too cocky about its economic place in the world. And we have shed too many jobs to too many regions because we believed in security goals, and I do too. But there comes a point when the American worker needs a place to check in at 9 o'clock in the morning.
For the people who say this is dangerous because China could sweep in and take the position that the U.S. had in some of these deals, including with Mexico, what do you say?
Like TPP, that was the big seller on TPP. If we don't do it, China's going to swoop in there. What I say back to that is that it's not that we don't want to have deals. It's that when we surrender America's sovereignty and our economic interests to these multilateral organizations, global organizations, oftentimes we don't get the best deal out of it. We don't have a deal with the UK. We don't have a bilateral trade deal with the UK. It's a mistake, and we ought to to start having deals with all of our key allies.
Yeah, I mean, Prime Minister May have talked about that today.
I hope so.
Office right next to the Winston Churchill bust. The executive action today was about extreme vetting. Here's the Homeland Security Chairman and Senator Booker on this.
Well, I think it's a safer day for America. With one stroke of a pen, he has closed off more terror pathways than the past 8 years under President Obama. I think this will strengthen our homeland security, and I really applaud the president for what he's doing.
This is just a wrong assault on people who are the most vulnerable, who are the most persecuted on the planet Earth. We are the United States of America. This is not a time to allow terrorists to make us turn our back on our values.
Charles.
Well, this is a time where if you look at Europe, you can see that among the refugees, innocent refugees, pitiful refugees, that you would like to admit, among them, there have been terrorists. Now, I don't think it's a huge issue here in the United States. They have a flood, we have a trickle. I think this is largely symbolic. But for the U.S. to assert that it is not going to admit people from places where you cannot get the information you need, Syria being the first, divided between ISIS on the one hand and the Assad government, whose documents is not at all reliable. On the other hand, we are not going to admit them unless we have better information. That makes perfect sense, and it is not a betrayal of anything.
Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer just releasing in the past few minutes a statement saying tears are running down the cheeks of the Statue of Liberty tonight as the grand tradition of America welcoming immigrants that has existed since America was founded has been stomped upon. Leslie.
I would have to agree with that. Today is National Holocaust Remembrance Day. I'm half Jewish. I lost relatives in the Holocaust. I know that today there were people tweeting all their ancestors that were turned away from the United States and end up dying in camps. I think of the picture of that little Syrian refugee boy with blood and mud running down his face. And I agree with Charles, although it could be symbolic, it is problematic to me. Not only as the nation, we want to be safer, but you know, it's not just Christians and religious minorities who are fleeing persecution. There are many Muslim men, women, and children who are fleeing, especially women and children, who are fleeing persecution. And I just don't think that the United States, being built upon the Judeo-Christian values that we were built upon, should turn our back on our values as a nation.
Trump is doing what he said he would do on the campaign trail. You went through this list of executive actions, orders that he's signing. He's showing that he walks the walk. I think it's very smart politics. Much of it may be symbolic, but Trump said, I'm going to vet refugees. He said, I'm going to reverse the Keystone Pipeline decision. He said, I'm going to build a wall. He started down all of those paths. And even with respect to the refugee vetting, I think a lot of Americans see this as common sense. I don't think the previous administration was any less interested in security. But what they did was stress the humanitarian aspects of refugees. Trump said, my sympathies are with Americans who are scared to death of somebody sneaking in. And that's exactly what he's doing. And even if it's only for symbolic reasons, I think the public will feel safer. It's smart politics.
Quickly, Matt, about Russia and his characterization of Russia, how the jury's out. He's going to have this phone call with Putin tomorrow. He's talking about it a little bit differently than he did before.
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation that he was going to repeal the Russian sanctions, and then it looks like they're taking a breath to consider this, which I think is a good thing. Look, we have it's very important that we be able to have a better and improved relation with Putin and with Russia. Obama has left Donald Trump with many destroyed relationships. Russia is one of those that is not in a good state, and the fact is this: Donald Trump's going to do what he can. For those people who say that Donald Trump's going to lay over for Vladimir Putin, I don't think they know Donald Trump very well. I just think he understands it's important that we try to make it more constructive, because it's not now.
I don't see why we have to try to make it constructive. There's this idea that somehow good relations are an end in themselves. They are not. They're a means to another end. The only reason we'd want good relations with Russia is to get them out of Ukraine, to get them from threatening the Baltic states, from getting them, probably it's too late in Syria, from the genocide in Syria. If they act responsibly and humanely, yes, we have good relations. Otherwise, we're going to have lousy relations. And we should.
Every administration has tried. George W. Bush looking into Putin's eyes, and the reset button with Secretary Clinton. And
you look in his eyes, and there's a hollowness. As long as there is, we are not going to have good relations with this man.
The March for Life, Trump versus the media, and the panel's winners and losers. The Friday lightning round is next. Well, that was interesting. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I think the audio is working. We hope you can hear me. And we are going to talk about the March for Life. We were rudely interrupted by a gremlin of some sort. We're back with the panel. Charles, a big crowd today.
That was a Russian-speaking gremlin. They will not stop. It was a big crowd. And look, I'm always impressed by the constitutional issue. Supreme Court acts unconstitutionally, arrogantly, wipes out all the abortion laws in the country willfully, and you get half a century of marches as the only way to respond, which is a lesson for all of us on these issues. Let the people decide, which is why you need to overturn Roe, so each state can decide by itself the way it was done before that willful act by the court and the half century of marches.
Matt.
I was down there today, and what I'm always struck with is by how many young people are there. And the other thing I noticed about that crowd is they're pretty pumped up about the new president and a Republican pro-life majority in the House and the Senate. And if you really think about it, it was presidentially and politically genius for Donald Trump to say he would pick from a list of Supreme Court potential nominees, and he's going to pick one next week, and that crowd is electric over the idea that they could have a strict constitutionalist back as that swing jurist.
Les.
Well, you know, the people in this crowd don't want abortion, okay? And I would not choose that for myself, but I don't want to make that choice for anyone else. And being the only one with a uterus on the panel, guys, if we overturn Roe v. Wade, that does not stop abortion. As a matter of fact, that sets us back to where women could die because they wouldn't have access to a medically safe abortion if they choose that. When you say give to the states, what are we going to do? We're going to have everybody flocking to states like California or the blue states to obtain an abortion? If you want to stop abortion, help prevent pregnancy, and places like Planned Parenthood and others have free birth control, education on how one can have sex and not get pregnant, because clearly people are having sex. So I'm all for a person's choice, but I feel that you can choose life, but you can choose also to have an abortion.
Jason.
I think the other big draw today was Kellyanne Conway, in addition to Mike Pence, the vice president, being the first vice president in the 40 years that this has been going on to attend. She was there, and I think she was a rebuke to those feminists who want to silence women who don't agree with them on abortion. I think it was a very big deal that she was there today.
Okay, because of our gremlins, we're going to go to winners and losers. First of all, the loser was the audio, whatever happened there. But okay, winner first, then loser. Jason.
My winner is winners. It's the finalists of the Australian Open Tennis Championships this week. The old-timers are in control. You have Roger Federer, age 35, in the finals, and then you have Venus Serena, age 36, playing her sister Serena, age 35. It's glad to see the veterans out there showing the young folks how to get it done.
All right, loser.
My loser is New York Senator Chuck Schumer, who continues to demonize Donald Trump's education secretary pick, Betsy DeVos, because she wants to give school choice to poor kids. He accused her today of saying that she is her choice would single-handedly decimate public education. I have a newsflash for Chuck Schumer. You go to an inner city and you look at the school options for kids, they're already decimated. DeVos wants to give a choice to these kids. He should get out of the way.
Winner then loser, Leslie?
I would say winner are the religious leaders, Christians, Jews, and Muslims today, who spoke out against what's being called Trump's Muslim ban. And my loser would be Steve Bannon, because I don't want any guy telling me or anybody else in the media to shut up.
Okay. Winner and loser?
Wow, I'm going to be the polar opposite. The winner, the unborn child. Abortion rates are way down. This new generation of young people are more pro-life than the generation before them. And the science is winning. The sonogram is making a big impact on people.
Let me interrupt your winner. Do you think the coverage will reach, today and tomorrow, anywhere near the coverage that the Women's March.
No, and it's obnoxious because this march happens every year. When they have these one-off marches like they had with this Women's March, it's easier to get a bigger crowd. These people have been doing this for literally a generation, Brett, and it's a real testament to their witness.
Okay, your loser.
The loser, the network news. And the winner in that is Steve Bannon. I think the American people are so pleased to have a presidential press conference or a gaggle where the first person to get called on is not the latest iteration of Helen Thomas or NBC or CBS. It's nice the fact that they are opening it up to different news outlets, and I think there's some oxygen going into that briefing room, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
Charles, winner than loser?
Winner is Mike Pence. When Trump runs into trouble, as he did early in this week, see the rambling CIA speech, obsession with crowd size, etc., you look at Pence, who was wonderful at the march, and you see a man who's stable, reassuring, and presidential. He always wins by comparison. The loser, I hate to be apocalyptic, is the human race. We just had the worst news of the year. Scientists have announced the creation of a pig-human chimera, which meant they injected human stem cells into a pig embryo and produced a creature that is part human, part pig. The reason is to produce...
Do we have a picture of this thing?
It's not. Hasn't. You don't grow it to the size where it actually can be born. They want to use it to grow organs, human organs, in pigs. But the implications of this are simply staggering. We shouldn't be doing anything near this, despite the fact that it holds out some promise for making spare parts. This, if you're not scared to buy this, you don't understand what's going on.
Okay, we'll end the week on that. Thanks. Thanks so much. All right. Panel, thank you. Thanks for inviting us into your home tonight.